Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is my Shelke the Transparent LUFENIA Plus run, where I ran Reigns, Agrias, and finally Y'shtola. I've had Y'shtola's burst since the first time it came out, and I never really used her just because if I ever needed a healer, I would go more towards area, things like that. But yeah, finally excited to use Y'shtola. I don't plan on greening her or anything like that. And this boss is very similar to the previous boss from Illusory Lighthouse, where they have 100% evasion. The only difference is I feel like this one's a little bit trickier, just because the too many bosses cannot be launched. And so here, I'm going to start off with Warrior of Light Call, because A will use his Bomber Plus move, which does a lot of damage there. So without trying to tank it like that with like Warrior Light Shield, at least I kept getting insta KO'd. So I did not use the second call from Warrior of Light, because that would have completely reduced all damage, and I wanted to get some damage so that I could have the boss activate Odin. So now I'm gonna go ahead and start applying my Jack Call here all on my debuffs, because my plan is to not let the boss take any turns. Now, although this one is very similar to that illusory LUFENIA Plus run we just had, where the boss does have 100% debuff evasion, you don't necessarily need to kill B in order to have A come out of that evasion. As you can see now, I can hit the boss, because you can either kill the small mini bosses, the ads, to force the evasion to go away, or you can let them attack and use their Bomber Plus attack. So either way you go, you could get them to, you have two ways to get them out of the evasion, where in the previous boss it was just like you were forced to kill the two little mini side bosses. I think with them, I think it was like A and C or something like that. So here, one other difference is going to be that this boss can only be confused in order to lock him out of his mechanics, where also the previous boss you can confuse or paralyze. So what's going to end up happening is that this boss is going to have the most HP activated thresholds from most of the bosses that I think we've encountered. So the first threshold is at 79%. Second is 59, followed by 39, 29, and then 19%. Every one of these sort of thresholds, the boss is going to do a calling reinforcements and ready to attack. And what this is going to do is that it's going to summon one of the sweeper bosses. And so when it summons a sweeper boss, it's going to go into its evasion state. But if it's confused, and only if it's confused, will it not go into its evasion phase. So right here, on this next attack, he should be at 79%. And so since he is confused, which is the whole reason or one of the reasons I also brought Agrias, is you're going to see he's going to mechanical sounds, there you go, calling reinforcements. So now he's supposed to have 100% evasion, but the reason he doesn't is because he is confused. And when he hits these thresholds, the boss will not move his turn all the way up. So when he calls the sweeper, it's not because he took a turn, it's just something that happens off turn, so the confusion stays. So at this point now it's just a damage race. Now this boss, the only way to get the orb to tick up is to recover 2 of your skill uses. Now there's only a few characters that can do this. Agrias with her LD, Vayne with his EX, Shelke with her LD, Y'shtola with her EX, and Prompta with his LD. Now, the thing though is that you, like Y'shtola, when you use her EX, just because you use it doesn't mean that the boss's orb count is going to go up. You have to have used each one of the skills and reduce the skills at least by one, because you technically have to recover them. If you're not using the skills and you use, like, for example, if you don't use Istola's S2 skill and then you go into her EX, you're not recovering anything because you're already at max. So that's the only thing that makes it slightly difficult, is that you do have to be using you know, skill 1, skill 2, skill 1, skill 2. I mean, it's something that most fights require anyway, but same thing goes, I believe, with Agrias. And Agrias will recover 2 of her skill uses when she uses her LD. So the goal would be to hear Istola. I did use one of each one of her skills. I used 1 stone, 1, I think it's Medica. So there you go. Now the boss's orb will go up. So this is what we're just doing all match here, is literally doing the same thing. Just going from skill 1, skill 2, and then by that time you probably need to use either Istola's EX or Agrias' LD. Agrias is really is a big key to this fight, and the reason that I swapped out Agrias for Cloud of Darkness friend is because Istola is the only one with the burst, so that way I could take advantage of all of the off-turn damage that the friend Cloud of Darkness unit will do. Also, since Istola does provide, like, I think Brave Gain, it's gonna help with the LUFENIA plus. I guess you can say, like, limitations or reductions. So since she batteries, things like that, I think she would have helped more. She would have helped Cloud of Darkness do more damage anyway. And other than that, that's it for the fight. There's nothing to it. If you're not confusing the enemy, you're just making it much harder than what it's supposed to be, in my honest opinion. All of the damage should be going towards A. Now, one of the things though is, like, the next threshold is going to be, because I already got him to 59%, so he already called in the ad. Now the next threshold is going to be at 39%, and if the main boss, which is A, ever hits any of those thresholds without the first sweeper B being eliminated, it's gonna call in a second sweeper. So then that's when you're gonna start running into issues, and I actually do that. I should have just targeted B and just eliminated B, but I end up getting A to 39% with the sweeper B being alive, and now I have to deal with both B and C sweepers, and they're not, I guess you can say, they're not, I wouldn't consider them dangerous, but the problem is that when they take a turn, I believe that they force the boss's turn to come all the way up. So the boss himself won't force a turn. It's the sweepers that, when they take a turn, could move the boss's turn all the way up. So if that happens, the confusion will go away. And the problem with the confusion going away is that the moment it goes away and it has not used, I think it's the Calamity, is it Calamity Bomber? It's gonna, if it hasn't used it, then what's gonna happen is that it's going to have the 100% evasion, and that's what you don't want. So here with the sweeper, I mean, was at 5%, was at 9%. I should have just focused on the sweeper. Even, I mean, I know that most of Agrias' damage is AoE, but I could have just done a and it was just literally at 1%. So if I would have eliminated sweeper B and just done like an HP attack, whatever it is, and then hit him with Sid Reigns, I would have only had to deal with one sweeper, which would have made it much easier. So here I made it harder for myself. I really did think that I was gonna eliminate the sweeper with Agrias' LD, but that didn't happen. So then Agrias comes even more in handy because the fact that, again, she completely disables turns, right? She can paralyze B and C. Um, she could confuse them, things like that. And so that's one of the main reasons I also bring Agrias. I tried to run this without Agrias, and I was having trouble with the orb. I think if you use just, you know, Medica as much as you can, and then here and there Stone, I think you can get her EX potentially to go up faster. Or each Low's EX to go up faster, but I couldn't complete the stage. And I tried it twice without Agrias, and I tried to do another damage dealer, but again, the LUFENIA orb kept getting me, so I brought in Agrias, and it just made it much better. Right off the bat, I could tell it was going to be much easier, and then I didn't have to deal with just killing one of the sweepers. And what makes it a little bit more difficult is that, again, the sweepers cannot be launched, so Sid Reigns can't go in there and one turn, one shot the sweepers, because they don't have too much health. But then by doing that and trying to focus on always eliminating the sweeper all the time, could potentially not get me to the turn count limit to complete the stage. So again, the other characters that that could have been used could have also been Vayne. This was also, I think, made right now that Vayne is available, because Vayne does recover abilities. Shelke is obviously a really good one, and Shelke seems to be a very good character that in JP it looks like there's people up until I think even today, or you know, that have videos on Shelke, running Shelke, if I'm not mistaken, and seems to be like a very good character. So I'm not going to pull on Shelke. I think Shelke is more of a damage dealer, which I think I have plenty of, and I'm saving my resources for Garnet that's coming up. I'm still debating on her though. The more I kind of like look at her, I'm debating her, just because, I mean, I do have Y'shtola for healing. I do have Agrias, which I know they're quite different, but I feel like with Agrias's, you know, disable abilities and having HP regeneration, things like that. I don't know how much I would be using Garnet. I really like Garnet, and I like her kid, and you know, she's enchanting for 2 different elements, things like that. Batteries the party, kills, summons Alexander, all that good stuff. And I like using her. I like a lot of her animations, so I'm still debating. I might go in there with about 100 tickets or so, see if I can get that LD. It would be nice if I can get her. That's just more personal preference, but we'll get to that. Pulls video, if I pull, talk more about Garnet. But and anybody else, I think you, or somebody else that I think you could bring is just some type of damage dealer for Sid Reigns. Potentially, you know, somebody else that could put, maybe paralyze. Maybe Cloud would also work here. I'm trying to think. Ace, I think, could also work here for all of the off-turn damage. And then bursting with maybe Ace instead of Y'shtola, maybe. I don't know about that one. I would have to try it out. It's just that Y'shtola, during her burst phase, she ends up giving the attack up and overflow up and HP damage dealt up by like 20%, brave damage up. But if you have the 2 out of 3 Y'shtola from her burst, then you're gonna get like 50%, I think, overflow, and then a stolen, and then 20% gained, and then an additional brave gain of like 50%, things like that. So I don't know. I think I might have bursted with Ace just to try to get through the match as fast as possible to meet the turn count. So here you will notice that I do need to go after Sweeper C because Sweeper C does have, had a little too much Brave there. Definitely could have killed me, so this is the reason that I target Sweeper C. Now, since the boss did use Calamity Bomber, although the confusion went away, it used Calamity Bomber, so it didn't, it made him not go into his evasion state. Or Carpet Bomber. It's a Calamity Bomber. I kept saying that the whole match, my bad. So it's Carpet Bomber. So right there, actually the boss goes into Carpet Bomber, my bad. And now becomes, doesn't have actually the evasion. And so I end up using Warrior of Light Call to mitigate all the damage. And even if I would have taken some damage, I mean, I do have Y'shtola, but Warrior of Light definitely helped for the start of the fight, to kind of tank the first bomber attack, and then on the second, or at the very end of the match, using Warrior of Light's second LD call, or using his LD call to mitigate all damage from that last attack. And then here, it's just making sure I can't get attacked. So I'm gonna confuse with Agrias, and I do believe that I finish off the boss with Sid Reigns here. Now, one thing I did not know is that when you defeat the boss, I think normally I've seen that whenever you defeat a boss, the smaller bosses automatically kind of like go with it, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what mostly happens. So I was a bit surprised that here when I defeat the boss, the two mini bosses stay alive, but I mean, it's not a big deal. They're easy to take care of, especially with Agrias and disabling their turns. I don't think they really do anything, at least that I noticed, that that you need to be worried about, or that I had to be worried about. One thing that I did notice too is Y'shtola is really good at Brave shaving, because like her Brave attack, or yeah, Brave attack and stuff like that, it does a lot of hits, and so I did notice that Y'shtola was doing a really good job at, or does a really good job at reducing Brave because of all her different hits. So here with Y'shtola, I finish off the match, and again, you just have to worry about tanking. If you want to start doing damage to the boss, let him use his Carpet Bomber. He'll come out of his evasion, or kill one of the sweepers. So if you do the stage, good luck.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. Also, let me know in the comment section what you think about this mission and who you used to complete it. Check the links in the description for Opera Omnia websites that give you a bunch of helpful information, and I'll see you on the next one.